Hi there everyone, welcome back to Data Science Building Blocks. Today we are going to continue with Pandas, pick up where we left off, and we got about this far, right? Pulled in some data from a CSV file. We had already looked at this data a couple times back when we pulled it from Kaggle and we were experimenting in Excel and Power BI. So it's a familiar data set. We've gone as far as to sample it and start to view it a little bit, but in this video we are going to examine it further. So we're going to look at some other Pandas functions and some just base Python functions to start to examine this data. So open up your DSBB _ pandas worksheet. It might be called Pandas 1. I renamed mine to just Pandas. I am not going to show you how to get to this point in Jupyter Notebook. If you haven't gotten that far yet, just go back a video or two, and I really encourage you to start at the beginning of the series. I trust that the people who have been following along know how to get to this point. So you probably need to run everything again once you get here, so you can just do a cell run all. I've already done that, so I'm going to click this in 3, the final cell, the last cell that we have right now, and just do an add cell. And then we can start to look at our data. So whatever you called your data frame, so mine's LEDF for life expectancy data frame, which is the clean table above. We're going to do a describe on it, and we can start to look at what it's telling us here. So this is nice. It gives you some statistics, count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, and some quartile ranges. It does it for year and life expectancy. So if you look at the D types, make another cell, just look at data types, which you do LEDF D types. So it tells you that entity is an object, and then year and life expectancy are both numbers, right? Integers or float. This is totally fine, but we don't really care about the year statistics, right? We care about maybe how the count of the rows, which is the same for both, but the mean year, not necessarily important. Standard deviation a year, right? We just have every year from 1800 all the way till I think it was 2016. Yep, max 2016. So maybe some of it's useful, but we probably just want to look at life expectancy. So we can do this chaining again. I think we've hit on this a little bit. You can pop life expectancy here at the end, do a control enter, and there now you've got a count and mean and other stats for just life expectancy. So should have commented this. Look at life expectancy stats. So now what do we want to do with this? A little more. We can take it further and just do what we did back in Excel, right? Start to group this, pivot it, look at stats for just certain entities, certain years. So I'm going to pick a random example. Since I live in the US, we'll just do US and year 2000 and forward. So how do I reduce this? And I'm going to show you how to do it as simply as I can think of without using the lock function, and you might not know what that is, and don't even worry about it yet. So let's just reduce data set to US. We're going to do one at a time as well. So how would I just visualize this for just the United States? Well, I can take my LEDF, right? I want to select the entity column. So let's just run this. So I'm just now getting the index and the entity. Well, I can absolutely set this equal to the United States and run again, and now it gives you, okay, for every row all the way down to the end, if the US is present or not. So, okay, for the first 4 rows, it's not. If you wanted to verify that, you can go back up to here and do head 4, run this, right? Okay, so you can see 0 through 3 is Japan. That's not the US. You're going to see false. So that's exactly what that's doing here, and that's exactly what we want. So we want this selection. We want this slice of the data for US. So let's store it in a variable. So we can just call it LEUS equals, and then it's this, right? But we don't want to select exactly this. We want to actually select this piece of the original data set. So breaking this down further, LEDF, right? That's our original data set. And then we can bracket everything that we just picked. So now you're using this everything in the middle of the brackets here is what you're selecting from the original df. So now we can do leus dot describe or something and just look at the United States stats. So this is good. We've now successfully reduced this to just the United States. There's a maximum of 2016, which is right. We know that every entity has every year, or at least up to the most current year in the data set. So, and there's 217, so we can see we've reduced this minimum maybe 1800. So we have all our stats here for the US. So how do we now reduce it to just years 2000 to 2016? Well, we know that there's going to be 17 years, so let's make another cell, and when we describe our stats, we should see just 17 rows. So reduce. Well, I'm going to delete this because it looks like I messed up. New cell. Reduce to just years 2000 plus. So we could do leus underscore 2000 plus. So it's very descriptive. So equals, right? I'm not going to do it right here just yet. So let's do again what we did above. So now we want to select just the US, which is here, LEUS. Right? What do we want to select from it? Well, we just want to select year equals, right, the year we want. But in this case, we want a string of them, and lucky for us, they're all in order. So let's do greater than, or you can do greater than or equal to 2000. And you don't need to put this in quotes because it's an integer, right? That's why we check the types. So you can do greater than or equal to 2000 or greater than 1999. So this should give us what we're looking for. You can comment this out right here and do a control enter if you want to visualize it. So you can now see, okay, this is giving me what I want. Out of the 217, it's giving me the trues and falses, which ones are greater than or equal to 2000, which ones are not. So perfect. Again, we want to select this from the LEUS and then bracket it. And then that is what we'll store inside of this variable here. So control enter again. This just shows you, okay, this is exactly what I want to select. This is the 17 rows it appears where we are greater than or equal to 2000. So let's uncomment this, bring it up. You don't need to, but I want this to be clean. So now it's going to store this piece of the LEUS dataset in a new one where it's just LE United States 2000 plus. So perfect. And we can describe this new one after we run it. So plus describe, and we should see 17 rows. And we do. The count 17 from minimum of 2000 to maximum of 2016. So having the year here is kind of nice in this case because you can see what's going on, and now it's actually giving you life expectancy numbers, right, grouped by, well, it's doing the total. So the life expectancy numbers, count, mean, standard deviation, the total of 2000 to 2016. So go ahead and do reduce United States, reduce to United States and Italy. And we'll do reduce the original data frame. So that's important. So from here, I'm going to show you how to do this a new way. So we will use the lock function in this case. So let's grab the original data frame, ledf equals, and then we can do ledf dot lock. And then from here, we can do bracket, and now we're going to grab our original df again, so ledf, and I'm going to break this down afterwards. So we're just focused on entity right now. So this piece here, ledf entity, that's just selecting the entity column from our original df, and we want to do it where the entity is in the US or Italy. So we can use this function isin. I literally said it before. We want to now, we've already specified entity, so now we just want to do, and you have to put these in brackets as well, so we're selecting from this list United States, and now we can separate by commas, so Italy. So I believe we're good here. I'll break this down. Let's actually pop this down to the next line, comment this out, and then Control Enter so I can just run it and you can visualize it. So we know that the US is 217 rows here, so adding Italy on this seems reasonable. So we've got US and Italy. Of course we can just do a dot sample or something until we see the US is there. So like 20. There we go. So we've got Italy and the US only. That's nice. So let's take that off. We've successfully done this, and we can store it in something new. So LEDF US Italy. So that's perfect. Again, let's go through this now. So LEDF is you're chaining the lock function onto your original data frame. So the way that lock works, you have to specify what you're looking for inside of the list here, and I'll link to lock documentation in the notes, so if you want to pause and rewind, I would recommend doing that, but you can also reference that documentation. So inside of here, right, we're doing exactly what we did before. We're taking the entity column from the original DF, chaining isin, and then specifying in a list separated by commas exactly what we want. So let's try it again now that we've done that part. So LEDF, US, and Italy, and let's just grab all years after 1900 this time. So 1900 plus, this is just what I'm calling it, and we'll store it in this variable. So now we can take what's in the LEDF US Italy. That's our data frame that we're interested in, lock, right? Brackets, and now in this bracket, what do we want to pick? So from the original data frame again, LEDF US Italy, we want the year column now. So put year in quotes in brackets, greater than or equal to, what did I say? I don't remember, 1900, so greater than or equal to 1900, so it doesn't matter. We'll do 1900. So in this case, we didn't have to do the isin. We only needed to select all the years greater than or equal to 1900. So we've selected that inside of the lock function. It's a little simpler because we're not using this isin function. So we've basically removed this piece of it and then just specified what we want for the entity. And I think this looks good if you add the bracket to the back. It looks like years enclosed, and then this bracket closes out the lock, and that's what we're looking for. So let's space comment, so just select years 1900 plus, and we can describe this now and hopefully see that we've got, what, 116 years. So LEDF US Italy 1900 plus, describe, Control Enter, and we have 234 years, but 234 divided by 2 is 117, so that's 1900 all the way to 2016. That's 117 years for each country. So we're doing well here. Okay, last step, let's just use the group by function now, and we can group by entity. So this is kind of like pivoting like we did in the past. Now that we have two countries, we can actually see this by year by country. So group by, well, not by every year. We'll calculate all the stats for each country. So group by entity country, right? And we'll take the data frame we just made, US, Italy, 1900 plus. Just make sure we typed it correctly. Control Enter, yes. And we'll do dot group by. So using this function, and then all we have to do is entity. Control Enter, and then you can see we've got some information here, but to actually visualize it, we have to add this extra step. And the extra step is, what do we want to do with the data? Do we want to sum it up? Do we want to average it? So let's just do sum, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so now you see your entity, you see the sum of the years. That's doesn't really matter. So and the sum of the life expectancy, what we probably want to see is the mean. Okay, so 1958, again, the year doesn't really matter. That's dead center of all the years from 1900 to 2016, but your average life expectancy, this is what you're actually after here, and that you can see is 64.285 for Italy, and then slightly higher for the US. So you know that for 1900 plus for these two countries, you can compare life expectancy, and this is how you write the code to do it. And again, very last step here now, we can just do this on life expectancy. So I'll do life expectancy in brackets. So we're just selecting that column from this data frame, and then we're chaining these commands on afterwards. So Control Enter, and entity. Oh, we still need to grab entity. So let's do entity as well. Okay, having some issues here. I forgot that when you're trying to select multiple columns, right, so you can't just take life expectancy because you need entity also in the data frame to be able to group by it, but we just don't want year, so you can either remove year or you can just select the columns that you want. So the comma here doesn't work. I forgot that you need to do, if you're trying to separate by comma, you need to put the list of what you're selecting in brackets, and then you can take that and select it from the data frame. So life expectancy and entity are what we want, separated by commas. That's a list now, right? If we're trying to separate it by commas. So we have our list in brackets, and then we pop it into what we're trying to select from the data frame. And then we're grouping by entity now that it exists and taking the mean. So Control Enter, and now you can see it's very simple. This is exactly what we want, only what we want. And we've got our info here. So hope you liked this video. It was probably a lot of information thrown at you, a little dry, hard to follow, but stick with it, and we'll see you in the next one.